Many women in leadership roles. 40% hold senior management roles in the corporate sector, while 38.2% in the public sector. So are these numbers good enough, or is our nation still missing out on untapped talent? Hello everyone, this is Women Talk, where we shine the light on issues that really matter. And our topic of discussion today is women in leadership. My name's Deborah Henry.
And my name is Zoraya Vadillo. Thank you all so much for joining us here today on Women Talk. And I'd also like to introduce a fantastic guest that we have today, who I'm super excited to speak to, Datuk Dr. Hafsah Hashim. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Deborah and Zoraya, for having me on this Women Talk. Truly inspirational listening to both of you.
And what a great topic that we're going to be speaking about today, leadership for
Indeed.
Women.
It's a big buzzword, right? Something that has been on the agenda in politics, in the corporate sector, conference after conference.
Yeah.
But we're going to dig right into it.
Yes, we will. I mean, you started off as a CEO at 40 years old. That's something.
40 plus.
40
to be
plus.
exact, yeah.
How did you get there? What did it take?
Well, I think I forgot that I'm a lady, but I just keep on working and doing what I do best. And suddenly, I think one fine day I was discovered and said, hey, I want you to become the CEO. And yeah, I took that challenge and I never looked back since then.
Well, you've had such an illustrious career. Well, how did she do it? And what was your childhood like? Were there any certain specific things that happened to you that paved that way?
Very interesting when you talk about childhood like, yeah. I think I have been put into a leadership position right from school. Whatever I do, I want to do the best, and therefore you want to be always the number one. You want to be on top of everything, yeah? So, and this happens also as you go to secondary school and you go to university. You want to be there doing something right, and you want to have followers to actually believe in you and trust in you and be able to chart the direction for whatever that you believe in. And I think because of that, it has always been with me that leadership is something that gives me satisfaction, that drives me and keeps my adrenaline flowing. And that's something that I thought that I like to push on and be able to take charge.
So did you look at that position of CEO and aim for it, or did you just work hard in your own work and then you were recognized?
I never thought that I'd become a CEO at 40 plus.
Really?
And never have dreamt about it. You know, it's always been someone else would do it, yeah? But as I said, whenever things have been trusted onto me, I will do my very best. And perhaps, little did I realize, I've been observed. And henceforth, I've been handpicked, literally, and put into that CEO position.
Yeah.
Whereas
the point on like the male and female part, like you mentioned earlier, Datuk, that you didn't even think about the fact that you were a woman. You just went out there and did it. But did you ever feel at any point that you needed to exude certain, we talk about being a leader, you got to become a man.
That's a good question.
Right? People always do that, and you see these women who like become a lot
more men thinking that's what it is to be a leader.
Indeed.
How do you be a woman?
Especially when you see a female leader and wearing a hijab.
Amazing.
So this is something that I thought that has got to be put across. So I want to urge all ladies out there, do not be scared of your negativity. A lot of others, I must say, that when they offer such high position and high jobs, let me think about it. I'm not ready for it, right? So there were a lot in the studies that I saw. Majority of them said, I'm not ready for it, come back to me in 2 years.
Wow.
And I prepare myself mentally.
That was the question I wanted to ask, is why is it that there's so few women in leadership roles? Is it because they shy away from it, or is it because they don't have the opportunities for it?
Very interesting. Whether they shy away from it is what I just mentioned. They actually felt that they are not ready yet for the job. And women being women want to prepare themselves.
Yes.
They're being meticulous, very detailed. They want to prepare themselves. I must make sure that my family is ready to accept this, and I must make sure that, I'm mentally prepared for this. But again, on your second part, whether they shy from it or whether they actually feel that they can take on it. So that's where the challenge comes in. Because women play a few roles. As they go out to office and become a leader, a CEO or a chairman for that matter, they also they felt responsible. They've got a family that they've got to take care of home. right?
Exactly.
So, and that's where you see a lot of women having issues about management of time,
Yeah,
all right?
juggle.
Having issues about managing stress, and having issues of where do I put priorities? And this is I want to share with both of you. In most of my interviews, when I take in new hires, I ask them, do you know the difference between important, urgent, and immediate? What would you do best? And this is what time management is all about.
That is such a good point. It's something I'm learning myself running my own businesses. How do I decide the difference? But I do want to talk to you, Datuk, about culture and the role culture plays in female leadership. But we're going to take a quick break first. Welcome back to Women Talk. Just before we went to the break, I was asking Datuk Hafsah about the role of culture in, women's leadership, and I feel that we can't really talk about it without culture. Like, I feel that culture is important to us, it guides us, but it also can sometimes feel like it holds us back. And I do feel that women struggle navigating this with their roles at home, but also in the workplace. What have you experienced and witnessed?
Well, I think for me personally, I never look at culture as a hindrance to my leadership role. It's how you actually navigate through it and be able to use culture as a strength and to empower others. I just mentioned to you about me, a female, a Muslim female in the leadership role, right? So how do I navigate myself when it comes to religious activities in the office, for example? So this is where you now empower your deputy who's a man. And you as a leader, you just take a back seat and said, hey, I'm giving you the opportunity, now you take the leadership role and let's see how you perform.
That's amazing. I mean, because what you're saying is so right. It's when you empower the people around you, it actually empowers you yourself, but you need to bring people up with you. It's not just pushing in one direction by yourself. So you work with a lot of women and encourage them into leadership. What do you notice that is the major setback that stops them from taking that step forward?
So again, why are they not moving forward is by virtue of the fact, number one, that I notice overall, they lack confidence. And why do they lack confidence? They feel that they are not ready yet for the role. They feel that they have got to be prepared. They feel that they have got to be trained. They've got to be polished, right? And this is where we at the Women Leadership Foundation took that opportunity. We recognized the gap. Our true north at the Women Leadership Foundation is to discover talent. Once we discover this talent, we train those talents. And once we train them, we polish them and we unleash them to the market, right? And create greater visibility for this, what I call future-ready female talents.
Do you think that's what makes the difference between men and women, is that men often think they deserve it, whereas women, we don't feel like we deserve it, and why they...
38% in public sector. I know that you don't quite think these numbers are very fantastic. Can you tell us why?
No. If I'm not mistaken, those data that you quoted is from Grant Thornton.
It is, yes.
Right, there you go. So for Grant Thornton, I think they have done an average. In actual fact, what we are saying, in Malaysia, Grant Thornton study showed that 54% of the group HR officers are women. It's great, right?
That's a good number.
Right. 41% of CTOs, Chief Technology Officers, are women. And do you know that Malaysia has got the highest percentage of CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, at 37%. And then you got CIOs Malaysia at 20%. But listen to this. Out of all those, only 10% of CEOs in Malaysia are women.
Wow.
So we,
What's
this group group HROs, then you see the CMOs, and you have this CTOs are supporting the 90% CEOs who are men.
Yes.
Right?
Well, why are they not getting to that top
Exactly.
rung?
So why are we not having that at least 50% or 30% as CEOs in Malaysia? Why 90% of CEOs in Malaysia are men? This is something for us to really dig in and study. Why is the group HR officers not nominating their colleagues, there's 41% CTOs to become the next CEOs.
Because Malaysian women are incredible. I mean, the skill set that Malaysian women have, I mean, someone coming from Europe, I don't see the same level of education that I see here. I mean, even among my own family, all of my mother and her sisters, they're all lawyers, accountants, doctors, and I mean, and they have children. Whereas to see the same in Europe, most of them will not have children. They will have chosen career and just put the other motherhood aside, whereas Malaysian women have this incredible ability to balance the two.
Indeed, I saw a higher level of commitment in Asians that I saw. High level of commitment towards the family, and equally higher level of commitment and dedication to their workplace.
Yes.
Right? But probably this is where this new norm of work from home could be something that's a positive trend that's coming in. For women, they can balance up. They can work from home, they can be at home, and yet they can take care of the family. I would imagine that it could be a plus.
How has a 30% policy helped sort of ensure that we see women at these top management positions?
Interesting question. When you talk about the 30%, now this policy was created in 2016. That they wanted to see in corporate boards, they put on board 30% women onto their boards in the leadership position. And that target was set to arrive at in 2020. But as at December 2020, only 17% of the total PLCs have got women on the corporate boards. So, and that's where I think perhaps there is a lack of monitoring, perhaps there's a lack of regulatory bodies doing their job to monitor that there must be 30% of women on corporate boards. And we are seeing today, at the recent announcement of the budget 2022, by June this year, all large companies must have a minimum of 1 woman on their corporate boards. And by June next year, all PLCs, public listed companies, must have at least 1 woman on corporate boards.
Amazing.
So that probably would be able to help to beef up and making sure that the policy works to the T. Now, do you know that I want to share with you, McKinsey data report showed that in Malaysia, if we were to eliminate gender, all right, we would be able to bring in 8.2% higher GDP over and above the usual GDP, and this equates to $50 billion US.
Wow. So we're really missing out.
Yes. So meaning to say that if we were to be able to put on board, there are today 828 seats as in corporate boards filled by men. If we were to put in that 30%, those seats should be filled by women.
Amazing.
So if those 828 seats are filled by men, then we will be able to get that $50 billion US and 8.2% increase in higher in GDP.
That's incredible.
So why are we not doing it? Come on, let's get on with it.
That's it.
On that note, we're going to take another quick break. We'll see you in just a bit.
Is it really a man's world? I think it depends whose lens you're looking through. Men might very well think it still is.
Frankly, seriously, it's a man's world, you know, because we still have that mindset where we think women are weak, women are not clever, and a woman cannot do it. But in fact, actually, if you ask me seriously, I think women are very capable because being mothers, you know, we can multitask.
I think it's no longer a man's world. Obviously, there are other values to look at beyond gender. You know, their values of intelligence, vision, empathy, respect, passion and commitment. There's a lot of other things to look beyond gender, and that is center stage at the moment.
Well, it's fantastic to see so many different opinions from women out there and to know that maybe it's not just a man's world. I think we've got a little bit of sway as well. But of course, you work with many women in your foundation. So can you tell us a little bit about what exactly you were answering to when you started this foundation just last year? If I'm not mistaken.
we were born in July last year. And I must thank the government for believing in us. We were born right out the legal department of the Prime Minister's office. What we did was right from the day one, we want to make sure that we go out and discover talents out there, young and old, and we want to polish their talents. We want to unleash them and create greater visibility for these talents for a very simple reason. Because what we saw is the fact that the problem statement out there appears to be there's not enough critical mass of capable women. All right? Okay. And when we saw the data from Securities Commission that 828 seats now filled by men should be filled by women, if we were to able to implement that 30% policy, we then told ourselves, hey, typically when you look into a formula, you got to multiply that by 3. If you want to invite 1,000, you got to come, then you have to invite 3,000, right?
Yes.
So now I've got 828 seats that I want to fill with women. Therefore, we put ourselves a target that we want to drive and unleash 2,500 future-ready female talents.
Amazing.
That is fantastic.
And in accordance to the concept of Keluarga Malaysia, in the Malaysian family concept, no one will be missed out. The Kadazans, the Bidayos, the what do you call it, the Malanaos and everything will be all encapsulated in the Orang Asli, the Orang Asal, the Malay, Chinese, Indian. Everybody will be encapsulated into our funnel. What we call is the leadership funnel. And in that leadership funnel, we want to make sure we've got 2,500 future-ready CVs ready for take-up.
And what is your timeline looking like? And also, what do you find the biggest struggles or barriers are that women face from the ones you've spoken to?
What is the timeline? We give ourselves 2,500 future-ready female talents in 5 years. And what we're constraining us is the fact that we want to make sure right from day one, number one, they understand integrity. Number two, and that should not be compromised. And number two, we want to make sure in terms of the skill sets, they are being empowered and being trained also using digitalization for purposes of making quick, fast, and the right decisions.
So when you say empowering women, I mean, is this just to take on leadership roles as an employee, CEO, all of these high positions, or is it also when it comes to entrepreneurship and business ownership?
I like that question, Zoraya. Because all entrepreneurs, little did they realize they are leaders.
Yes.
All right? And they have to embrace that leadership qualities in them for them to chart the direction for their company. Whether their company is at a tipping point and going downwards or whether their company is going upwards, they have to actually know where to bring their company. Yes. And all entrepreneurs, I repeat, are leaders. So they are all included in our game plan, not just the corporate bodies, right, who are employees, but also entrepreneurs themselves. How do we now take them from point A to point B up to the what do you call it, the highest peak of their entrepreneurship world?
Brilliant.
And this is where we want to make sure that for these entrepreneurs, it's just not, they are not playing in the domestic market. We are now straight away bringing them into the international market through digitization again.
Amazing. That's absolutely incredible. And after being a woman in leadership, now you're pulling so many other women with you.
We have to remember one important quote, Zoraya. We will not be up there, we will not be a leader if you don't lift others.
Yes.
All right? And henceforth is, we put it upon ourselves that we want to lift many more others so that they become the next future leader of the country.
So well said.
Wow.
I think that's a wonderful way to wrap up the show.
Yes, it is.
Just to echo your words, Dr. Hafsah, you cannot be a leader if you don't help others. And I think for women watching, in your schools, in your homes, in your communities, your villages, your cities, our nation, and eventually the world. Thank you so much, Dr. Hafsah, for being with us today.
It's been an honor.
Thank you for having me at Women Talk. I enjoyed the session, and I do hope that we can inspire together more women out there to be in leadership positions.
Absolutely.
We will. We will continue to inspire. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank all of you for tuning in. I'm Deborah.
And I'm Zoraya. We'll see you all very soon.
Take care. I'm assuming that there would have probably been men who were more senior than you and they were eyeing that seat. You came along and suddenly you're handpicked and you're there.
I was quite cautious when I've been approached to take that position because I am very much aware that there are two other men who are more senior with me in terms of age in the same organization. But there could be two things that could happen. Number one, I could have declined the offer. Number two, I decided to take the challenge and I just went on and said, thank you so very much for the trust and believe in me. I'm not to say that I'm going to think about it, but I'm very much, confident that I want to make sure that I will live up to your expectations and your trust.
Yeah.